If you struggle to figure out which brands to support because there's so much greenwashing going on, I'm going to give you my tips in this video. Stay tuned till the end because I'm also sharing my sustainable fashion shopping tips. Let's get started. Before we get started, I did have a quick disclaimer. I'm a sustainable fashion consultant. I work with our clients that are sustainable fashion brands, and I always tell them that there's no such thing as a perfectly sustainable fashion brand. Before you freak out because you clicked on this video because you want to learn what brands to support, I just wanted to preface this and give you a little bit more info. If you think about it, having a brand, being in business, is going to have an environmental impact. Brands are using materials, they're emitting carbons, they're using electricity, all this stuff. However, if they truly wanted to be sustainable, they just wouldn't even be in business in the first place. Really similarly to you, if you wanted to be a super conscious consumer, you would just sit alone at home naked in the dark, right? Like that's just what it would cost to not have any environmental impact. However, that is not realistic. That's not how we live our lives. So the goal for sustainable fashion brands is to figure out how to stay profitable, how to continue to support their workers and their garment workers and all these different types of people while minimizing their impact on the environment. So in other words, it is a balancing act. And the exact same thing is true for you and your lifestyle. How do you continue to live your life? How do you continue to go out into the world, travel, go to work, buy clothes to wear for work? How do you balance that while still leaving enough on the earth for future generations and minimizing your impact? So with all that being said, I'm just gonna say that there's no perfect sustainable fashion brand. However, there are definitely brands doing more to minimize that impact. And your job as a consumer is to vote with your dollars. Your spending power is so powerful. And so make sure you feel good about who you're giving your funding to. Because if you think about it, are you gonna give $200 to a fast fashion brand that probably isn't paying their garment workers and sending millions of tons of textile waste to our landfills? Or would you rather pay $200 to a local conscious brand that is actually going to pay their garment workers, is going to actually do something to try to minimize their impact? Which one feels better to you, right? And so in this video, I'm really gonna show you how you can pick and choose brands that have a better environmental impact. But that being said, there is no perfect sustainable fashion brand. I just wanna put that out there, but there are brands doing better, and your job as a consumer is to vote with your dollars and figure out who to support. As you're determining which brands to support, my first tip is to audit their website. Brands usually post the most amount of information they have on their website, so just spend 5 to 10 minutes before you buy something to see if it's aligned with your values. A few tips when it comes to auditing their website. First of all, you want to look at their About page. So do they talk about their values? Are they aligned with your values? Do they talk about the story of the brand and why they started? Is there some sort of deep connection from the founder about environmental impact? What does that look like? So that's really important to see if you can resonate with what the brand is all about. Secondly, see if they have a sustainability page. On that page, it's really important to see what is on there because a lot of brands will just simply say they're sustainable or eco or conscious and then kind of leave it at that. But you need to dig deeper to see if they have metrics on that page. Do they have targets? Do they have a sustainability report? Do they talk about where their clothes are manufactured? Do they show the behind the scenes of the factories? Do they have certifications? Really take 5 to 10 minutes to look through that. That's really all it takes. Don't be lazy here. And so make sure you look through that. You also want to look at the individual product pages as well. Look at the materials composition. They're gonna have that on there for sure, and if they don't, that's a huge red flag. But you also wanna see if there's stats and metrics with the materials too. Do they have water savings listed? Do they have the amount of pesticides used listed? What does that look like? And if they don't have that, you can just simply ask the brand as well. Additionally, see if there's certifications they have. It's not always a red flag if they don't have certifications because sometimes mills, which are the companies that the brands buy the materials from, the mills are small businesses and in some cases they just don't have the budget and the resources to apply for these certifications. So that could be why the brand doesn't have any certification. So if that's the case, the brand will tell you that, so just email them so that you can ask them about it. And then of course you want to see if they know where the garment was produced and they can show you some behind the scenes of the factory. These are all things on the individual product pages that you can take a look at. And again, as a consumer, you need to vote with your dollars and you need to consciously feel good about who and what kind of brand you're supporting. So just take 5 to 10 minutes to look through the About page, the sustainability page, and the individual product pages, which you are probably on already since you're shopping. And as you're evaluating these brands, my next tip is to identify any red flags. And I'm going to walk through 3 red flags with you to help you. The first one is I've been seeing a lot of brands recently say that they're designed in X. So they can say they're designed in Vancouver or designed in San Francisco or designed in London. But if you think about that, that literally means nothing, because it just means that they had a designer, an employee at their company, and they were just located in Vancouver, London, or Toronto, or wherever, right? And the fact that they're promoting that is a little bit sketchy, because there's so many other things you could lead with, such as where your production is, where your materials are from, things like that. And I also wanted to preface this and have a quick disclaimer around production, because a lot of the times I find production in Asia has a bad rep. But there's some amazing factories in Asia as well, and they're trying to clean up their act. There's always nuance, and so what I would say is if a brand is leading though with where their clothes are being designed, that's a little interesting, and you definitely want to dig deeper to see what else is going on. The second red flag is just around carbon emissions. There's a huge wave right now of carbon offsetting with planting trees, and I will say that that's a good first step, but a lot of brands just kind of stop there. The next step after carbon offsetting is something called a carbon insetting, where you actually take it one step further and you try to reduce your carbon impact during your supply chain. So a lot of brands will now hopefully install like solar panels at their factories, things like that. And so I digress a little bit, but there's a lot of brands now claiming to be carbon negative, which is another red flag you want to watch out for. Essentially, what the brand is saying is that they have analyzed all of their carbon impact, which, by the way, is very hard to do because there's not a lot of tools right now and it's not super accurate. But the brand is saying they've analyzed exactly how much carbon their brand is emitting, and then they're going to spend money and plant trees to offset that. And like I said, that's a good first start, but to claim that you have planted enough trees, and more than enough trees, in fact, to have offset all of the carbon emissions you have basically admitted as a brand, that's a pretty big stretch. And I think you just need to ask some questions around how they calculated it, how they decided how many trees to plant, and what that even looks like. And so dig a little bit deeper. I know there's also a lot of brands saying that they're carbon neutral. In my opinion, that's also a good first step, right? You want to ask them though how they calculated their carbon emissions and how they decided how many trees they're going to plant. The other thing as well is just that the fact that they're saying that they're carbon negative is just not the best way to talk about it. It's a very like clickbaity, greenwashy type way to position it. So just make sure you dig deeper and you ask questions. With being carbon neutral, we do know some brands that are genuinely kind of carbon neutral, but again, it's not the best way to position it. I think instead for our clients, we always tell them to actually list out the exact carbon impact they have and then the amount of trees they're planting and what that calculation looks like, so that instead of just clickbaity saying that they're carbon neutral and carbon negative, they can actually show the numbers to their customers. So that's what we personally get our clients to do, but I know that some brands just prefer to say that they're carbon neutral or carbon negative. So you just want to do your due diligence and really watch out for that. The last red flag is, of course, if a brand is saying that they're sustainable, they're eco-conscious, they're green, they're organic, which, by the way, I have no idea what that means. I guess if a brand is using organic cotton, they can call themselves organic, but I digress again. But you just want to make sure that there's actually action behind those words, and it's not just those big, fluffy, fancy words, right? Are there metrics? Are there targets? Do they have sustainability reports? What does that look like? Just take 5 to 10 minutes to see and suss out if they can actually put their money where their mouth is and actually have things to show for what they're saying. If you're getting a lot out of these tips, you're going to love the Recloseted Handbook, Your Sustainable Fashion Guide. This is an ebook that I self-published, and in it, I give you all the tips you need to become a conscious and stylish clothing consumer. You can snag the handbook at recloseted.com/handbook, and you can also use code YouTube for 10% off. This handbook is the price of a fast fashion t-shirt, and if you think about it, you're likely not going to wear that fast fashion t-shirt many times, if at all. So instead, invest in the handbook and take the first step towards making a positive impact on the fashion industry and starting your conscious fashion journey. Once you've gotten the handbook, let's dive back into the video. My next tip is to read the brand's sustainability reports and targets. If they don't have any, make sure you reach out to the brand and ask them for it, or ask them why they don't have it. It could be something that they're working on behind the scenes, and if it's not, maybe your questioning will really kick them in the butt to get started. When it comes to sustainability reports and targets though, don't be fooled by pretty pictures and graphics. You want to make sure there's actually substance in it. And whenever we work with our clients to make sustainability reports, we make it a good balance of being really informative, but also user-friendly and easy to digest. So hopefully you're not reading scientific reports, but even if you are and you don't know what's going on, you can always reach out to the brand and ask them to explain it to you, because you just want to make sure you're making informed and educated decisions, and literally just take 5 to 10 minutes to dig through this and see if you can consciously support this brand with your dollars, right? It's really, really important to vote with your dollars and only support brands that align with your values. Another thing too is if their last sustainability report or last sustainability update was 3 or 5 years ago, that's kind of a red flag. And so you want to reach out to the brand and see what was going on there and what they're doing now from a sustainability perspective. My other tip is to look at certifications. We talked about this a little bit already, but if they have certifications, you just want to Google it to see if it's legit. Additionally, if you want to take it a step further and they say they're an organization of this certification or whatever, you can literally just Google the certification name and their brand name to see if it comes up. Because sometimes there is some shady activity where brands will Photoshop certifications, they'll lie, and so you just want to make sure you triple check. And the other thing as well that I mentioned is that it's not always a red flag if a brand doesn't have any certifications, because sometimes if they're supporting smaller mills or smaller factories that don't have the time, the resources, and the budget to get the certifications, that might be why. However, on the flip side, there's of course situations where brands are supporting and buying things from mills and manufacturers, or even the brands themselves aren't doing things that are up to standard, and that's why they don't have a certification. Definitely two sides to the coin, and so you just want to do your due diligence. If there's a certification, just ask if they can send you proof, or you can Google and do a quick check. And if there's not certifications, then just simply ask them why that is and if there's any progress or any plans to be certified. So just take a look at that and make sure that, again, it's aligned with your values and you feel good supporting them. And with all that being said, my next tip is just to ask questions. Do not be shy. You are literally investing your money in these pieces, and you're also investing in the brand and supporting them. So you want to make sure it's aligned with your values. So don't be shy to ask, who made my clothes? Where are these materials from? What are your sustainability targets? What is your roadmap? Like, just ask them. And I think that brands that welcome this kind of questioning are the brands that you want to work with anyways, because we always tell our clients when people ask them questions, you should get excited, because that means customers are becoming more educated and more informed, and they're asking these questions across the board to all fashion brands, and we can raise the bar in the industry. So don't be afraid to ask questions and get answers to things so that you can wholeheartedly feel good about a purchase decision you are making. And now, like I promised, I'm going to share my bonus shopping tips with you. First of all, I always tell my friends and my family members to have a style plan. Essentially what this is, it's based on your lifestyle, such as if you go into the office 5 days a week, or if you work from home, or what you do on the weekends. Make a plan of what types of clothes you need for your lifestyle. When you have a strategy for your clothing, when you go out and shop, it just makes it so much easier, because otherwise you end up buying things you don't really need and you don't really wear. And so start with a style plan. And in the handbook, we actually have an entire chapter to help you do that. And we have exercises, so make sure you check out the handbook if you haven't already. Additionally, before you buy something, ask yourself seriously if you need it, because most times we just buy things frivolously and we don't really think about it. So really ask if you need it and how many times you would actually wear it. The other thing as well is see if you really need to buy it new, or if this is something you can thrift. For example, if you're looking for a new jean jacket, you can easily find something like that at a thrift store. And so basically you divert from landfill, because that piece probably would have gone straight to the landfill. And also you can feel good that no new materials were used in your jean jacket, right? So if it's something that you really want a unique piece and you want to save money on it, definitely go thrifting. And if you decide you want to buy new, then make sure you support a conscious local brand. That is key. We actually have a list of all the brands we recommend in our handbook as well to make it super easy for you. But the key with shopping with conscious brands is to make sure you think about cost per wear versus the overall price of a garment. Because I always like to say, if you're looking for a beautiful cashmere sweater and a conscious fashion brand is charging $300 for it because it's high quality material and it's also ethically produced, and though you're probably going to wear it at least 300 times and you're going to wear it years and years to come, that's a $1 cost per wear. Versus if you cheaped out and you bought an acrylic sweater, which is like a synthetic itchy material from a fast fashion brand that was $50 and it's so itchy you only wear it once, That's a $50 cost per wear, right? So really think about that and buy things intentionally and for longevity. And at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you can wholeheartedly support these brands with your money because you are voting with your dollars. And so make sure you think carefully and you are really intentional with your purchases. If you enjoyed this video and you got a lot out of it, you're honestly going to love and get so much more out of my handbook. And so make sure you snag it. You can do so at recloseted.com/handbook. You can also use code YouTube for 10% off. Like I mentioned, I don't hold back in this handbook. You're going to learn exactly how to be a stylish yet conscious clothing consumer. Self-published by me. I literally spent like 10,000 hours researching things because I personally used to also be a fast fashion consumer, and I just put all my findings into this book. And so I hope it helps you, and together, let's transform the harmful fashion industry.